Hitler's childhood. He looks so innocent. One might have thought this child would grow up to be a good man. But think again. Hitler was born in 1889 in a small town in Austria-Hungary under the name Adolphus Hitler. He was the illegitimate child of Alois Schicklgruber, though he later adopted his stepfather's surname and began using the name Alois Hitler. His father, Alois, was a mid-level customs official in Austria. He was not particularly wealthy, but he had a rather active love life. He had married a wealthy woman older than himself. However, he later began relationships with other women, including a maid much younger than him. A few years later, he abandoned his ailing wife to be with his mistress. Yet, because the Catholic Church did not permit divorce at the time, he could not marry his mistress. Instead, he waited for his elderly wife to pass away. During this interim, he had a child with his mistress. When his wife finally died, he married his mistress, and they had another child together. However, when his new wife fell ill, he hired his cousin Clara, who was much younger than him, to care for her. Later, upon his wife's death, he wasted no time in impregnating his cousin Clara and marrying her. Events unfolded in exactly that order. Clara and Alois had 3 children, but all of them tragically died in infancy. Consequently, when their 4th child, Adolf, was born, Clara lavished him with excessive attention and affection. The couple had 2 more children, and the family was forced to move. This situation led to Adolf attending 5 different schools. Adolf's father was a harsh, short-tempered man who frequently took his anger out on his eldest son. When the eldest son, unable to bear the situation any longer, ran away from home at the age of 14, the burden of handling most of the household chores fell upon 7-year-old Adolf. Consequently, while he had a troubled relationship with his father, he formed a deep emotional bond with his mother, who cared for him and his health with great devotion. Adolf was successful at school. His grades were initially good, and his teachers respected him. He was popular among his peers and enjoyed bringing them together to play war games. He also loved reading, especially stories about cowboys and Native Americans. However, as he grew older, he began to get into trouble. On one occasion, he tormented his pro-Austrian religious education teacher. This act amounted to a rebellion against Habsburg Austria and symbolized his commitment to the idea of a great Germanic people united under a single German state. All of this infuriated Adolf's father, who punished him severely. He spent much of his time at the opera with his only friend, August Kubizek. Kubizek later wrote down his recollections of the young Hitler, touching upon Hitler's diverse interests, his intellectual capacity, which in many respects surpassed that of his peers, his tendency to experience sudden outbursts of anger, just like his father, and the remarkable leadership qualities he displayed when delivering impassioned speeches. He lost his mother when he was just 18. He traveled to Vienna to take the entrance exam for art school but was not accepted. Consequently, he found himself living on the streets. In his early 20s, he was homeless, scraping by on the meager earnings he made selling postcards. It is difficult to pinpoint exactly when and how Hitler's extreme ideological views took shape, but his time in Vienna certainly played a role. Anti-Semitism was widespread in the city, and the mayor Hitler supported was an avowed anti-Semite. There were numerous right-wing and anti-Semitic figures who greatly interested Hitler. He adopted their conspiracy theories and developed an unwavering belief in the existence of various races, constantly in conflict with one another. He believed that the German Aryan people were the purest of these races, while the Jews were the worst. Hitler disliked the fact that Austria-Hungary was a multi-ethnic empire filled with inferior races. Consequently, at the age of 24, he moved to Munich, Germany, to evade military service. In 1914, long-standing tensions across Europe escalated into the First World War. Hitler soon joined the German army. While the war gave him a purpose in life, his comrades in arms offered him a sense of friendship and brotherhood. Despite the horrors of the war, Hitler regarded that period as the best time of his life. He became a brave soldier. He is known to have been awarded the Iron Cross, First Class. He survived numerous dangerous incidents in which he came face to face with death. However, in 1916, he was wounded in the leg by a bullet. Upon returning to Germany to recover, he was angered by the indifference toward the war shown by the impoverished and starving German people. In 1918, he temporarily lost his sight as a result of a British gas attack. Post-war Germany was grappling with severe economic crises, political instability, and social unrest. In 1919, Hitler joined the German Workers' Party, which would later become known as the Nazi Party. Thanks to his powerful oratory skills, he quickly became the leader of the party. In 1923, he staged a failed coup attempt in Munich, aimed at overthrowing the government. Following this event, he was imprisoned. While in prison, he wrote the book Mein Kampf, My Struggle. In the book, he outlined his views on Germany's future and his ultranationalist ideology. In 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. He soon dismantled democratic institutions and established one-party rule. Opposition parties were banned, freedom of the press was curtailed, and the full power of the state came under the control of the Nazi regime. World War II began in 1939 with Germany's invasion of Poland. The conflict rapidly spread across large parts of Europe, Africa, and Asia. Germany achieved significant military successes in the early years of the war, but the tide of the conflict eventually turned. The Holocaust, carried out under Hitler's rule, is considered one of the greatest crimes against humanity in history. Approximately 6 million Jews and millions of other civilians were systematically murdered. This event remains one of the darkest chapters in the history of human rights. As Allied forces advanced in 1944 and 1945, Germany was forced into a rapid retreat. By the time the Soviet army reached Berlin, the outcome of the war was all but certain. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler took his own life in his underground bunker in Berlin. Shortly thereafter, Germany surrendered, and World War II came to an end in Europe. The terms of the peace treaty were extremely harsh for Germany. The country was compelled to pay massive war reparations and relinquish a significant portion of its military strength. These conditions fostered a sense of humiliation among the German people. Following the war, the map of Europe was redrawn. New nations were established on territories lost by Russia. The Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed, and Germany was divided into West Germany and East Germany. In the aftermath of the war, the world began to witness the full extent of the devastation. Tens of millions of people had lost their lives. Cities had been reduced to ruins, and millions had been displaced. The crimes committed by the Nazi regime were tried in international courts, and this process contributed to the development of modern international criminal law. Today, the life of Adolf Hitler is studied as a historical example that illustrates the destructive consequences that authoritarian regimes, ideologies of hate, and discrimination can inflict upon societies. The lessons drawn from his era serve as a reminder of the importance of upholding democracy, human rights, the rule of law, and peace.